It is finally out. For almost a year, the new order has lacked a major update, with the previous one being cutting room floor, I believe. But Toolbox Theory is finally out, and boy is it a big update. Complete economic system, diplomacy and policy mechanics reworked, massive skeleton content and proxy wars added to all parts of the world, and most importantly, a few nations' path has also been reworked. So today we're going to be playing one of those reworked countries, Yunnan, and hopefully we'll be able to free China, check out some of the TT mechanics, and have a good time. Alright, let's get started. To look at the state of Yunnan, one must first understand the aftermath of the defeat at Chongqing. The final victory of Japan in the Battle of Chongqing severely damaged the morale of the United Front forces in Yunnan. Long Yun, having ruled Yunnan as its king for years, was no fool. He knew better than to force the people of Yunnan to die in a meaningless battle. So then both sides came to terms in order to avoid pointless bloodshed. But there was one variable that had yet to be resolved, that of Long Yun's status. Long Yun was far too influential in Yunnan after years of his reign. Therefore, he resigned and passed the throne to his cousin Lu Han, who was optimal for both sides of the conference table. But Lu Han's ascension did not solve everything. After all, Long Yun was too connected to Yunnan's administration, therefore a compromise was reached. Long Yun will remain in the cabinet as a ceremonial head of government, and as the new head of state, Lu Han officially signed a ceasefire and surrendered. So why has the reign of Lu Han gone from a fairly popular fascismo to one bedeviled by dissent and popular anger? First, the long period of peace has corroded Lu Han's formerly nationalist spirit. Second, close relationships and gifts from local landlords make him less and less concerned about the welfare of the people of Yunnan. With China's weak army and Japan's increasing collapse, Long Yun believes that a chance to pressure Nanjing to treat Xinan better by force is coming ever closer. As Long Yun's position is ceremonial, he lacks authority to truly push for the central government. But that doesn't leave him powerless. Not only is he still highly prestigious in Xinan, but there are the insurgents, who just might be able to lend him a hand when the time comes. And so it begins, our journey as the Yunnan clique to hopefully free China from Japanese influence in a couple of years. So let's just crack on with our adventure and start with a focus tree in the west. Yunnan, the southwestmost periphery of China, a serene little state, picturesque and mountainous, covered in dense forests that buzz with every variety of life. As enemies lurk in the dark, both within and outside our borders, we must tread carefully but forcefully. For Yunnan, for China, for Lu Han, onwards. Lu Han, when the dust of the Sino-Japanese War had settled, and so it happened that Lu Han ascended to the position of leader simply as the other option. Nevertheless, Lu Han now sits at the top of a precarious corps of power. As long as the situation remains stable, so will he, and so will Yunnan. Long Yun. Name of Long Yun is a famous one not only in Yunnan, but across all of China. The king of Yunnan, the stalwart anti-Japanese force, now just a nothing job, the sole purpose of which is to legitimize an administration betrays every principle he's ever had. A quiet flame still burns in Xinan, and if the traitors in Nanjing and the devils in Tokyo refuse to hear the cries of these people, there always remains the option to light with it the torch of revolt. Once upon a time, it was fire that burned away the locusts that threatened to feast on Yunnan's bosom. It will be the same fire that burns away the plague that now infests all of China. Alright, and after completing these initial focuses, which was about, getting 10, we have arrived to the Xinan Insurgency, which has unlocked a set of decisions that outlines 4 external and internal threats, including the National Revolutionary Army, the Chinese Communist Party, the bandits in the southwestern mountains, as well as the National Protection Army in the Xinan Insurgency. Now, obviously, for our purposes here, we are not going to do any of these decisions. But nevertheless, we have to continue down our focus branch. So we'll begin with the Ghosts of the Past and start with the NRA in the Burma Road. The fights without end. Since 1937, Zhao had spent his time fighting for China's freedom, from Wuhan to Chongqing and finally to where he sat now. It has come to my attention, gentlemen, that you all hope to liberate China, liberated of Japanese influence, liberated of authoritarianism. For that, I must thank you, for nobody else will. Today, the decision was made by the NRA High Command to expand operations across Burma and into Yunnan. Why? His unit was being assigned to the biggest raid on the Burma Road since 1947. Laying in the trees alongside a half a dozen of his former trainees, they could see a small convoy of trucks, 2 APCs, and a line of what seems like heavily armed refugees, otherwise known as Yunnan's best and brightest. Alright, you boys ready? So yeah, apparently that didn't go too well. But anyway, let's move on. Our next target in our list of insurgents is the Chinese Communist Party. And after that, time to deal with the bandits. And finally, all that's left for us to deal with is the warmongers of the National Protection Army. Afternoon, Zijing. What's this, Enpu? Sitting down, Zijing reached towards the folder. Can't be serious. What if Lu Han finds out? I'm not spending another year with Japan holding us with such a close leash. We are getting these people on side. It's our ass if we don't. They'll join. They want nothing more. Han was not a foolish man. The moment he learned that Zheng Jishen and An Enpu had secretly been working for the MPA movement, nearly made him order the execution on the spot. But that would have been the move of a fool. Zheng and An could be valuable sources of information if they were lulled into a false sense of security. The lower elements of the MPA conspiracy would be taken down, with the 2 highest ranks clueless. And with that ends our focus tree of dealing with this Xinan Insurgency. And all we can do now is close our eyes and hope. Hope that the armies have done enough. Hope that Yunnan will survive. All we know is that we have done our best, whether or not it was enough. Alright, and now with that done and dusted for now, the next thing we need to do as Yunnan is to deal with the unification between us and Guizhou. And now regarding our unification, we now face 2 options. Either to unite with Guizhou by force or to do it peacefully. And since doing it peacefully gives us a lot of boost in our economy, we shall look into a more peaceful and civilized way to bring our few opponents to our point of view. And now, today, representatives and delegates discuss a unified Yunnan and Guizhou. So it begins. And regarding the discussion about unification, we actually eventually need to make 3 separate decisions. We are going to go with a centralized economy and legal system. But for the future of He Yingqin, we are going to let him settle down in some place quaint. And now the conference in Fuyuan has officially come to a close. For better or for worse, 2 cliques of Yunnan and Guizhou now are to be unified politically, legally and militarily into a single state. And with that focus done, we have successfully unified with Guizhou to form the Xinan Autonomous Government. And now that we are done with the unification of Xinan, we have approached the second stage of our focus tree, which focuses on the economic development and modernization of Xinan. But subsequently, this is also the focus branch that will eventually lead to the takeover of the National Protection Army. The helmsman charged the course. Modernization is worth any price. Lu Han goes worse. The door to his office opened, and came a secretary bearing a report to the labor statistician. Printed simply at the bottom of the report was its findings. The most optimal distribution of wages was simply not to pay them at all. The work hours should be increased by another 4 hours, leaving workers barely enough time to sleep. It was all for the good of China. It was for the good of China. Report accepted with no reservations. Implement at once. NPA loses hope. Zheng Jishen and An Enpu had despised Lu Han from the very moment he took the mantle of leadership. Who did Lu Han even serve? One thing was for sure, it wasn't for the people of Yunnan. Something had to be done. Finding the man's empty, Zheng Jishen picked up the phone and said one thing to the operator. Get me Long Yun. To Generals Zheng Jishen and An Enpu. I am aware of the way in which the battle lines have been drawn, and I am fully willing to side with the National Protection Army to free the motherland. However, I must make one request. It is my express wish that when the NPA takes power, Lu Han should be imprisoned, but not harmed. The officers, though at first hesitant, nodded. We can agree to that, Marshal. And Long Yun joins NPA. Finally, the king of Yunnan stood before them. We will fight to our last breaths, and then after that, may the final drop of our blood be shed in the perseverance and protection of our motherland. Leaving his rival, Long looked at his two fellow resistance fighters and stood up. It was his turn now to fight for the freedom of the Chinese people and the nation he and so many loved so deeply. And after a round of doing focuses, we have successfully completed the left side of our focus tree, and now it's time to complete the rest of our focus tree and to shoring up our weaknesses. The revolution is not long from coming. From what we've been able to gather from our underground network, Long Yun has joined the MPA and is waiting for the perfect moment to pull Lu Han down from his throne. We're also secretly conveying to Long Yun and the MPA that the CCP remnants are willing to fight under Long's banner with the same goal of China's liberation. We will see you someday, sir. Make sure to tell the madam to wait for the good news. And after spending more time doing focuses, we have now also completed the right side of our focus tree, and we can finally do the fruits of our labor. And here is where the fun begins. While Long Yun, Zheng Zhishan, and Ananpu planned a war of national liberation, the governor of Yunnan, Lu Han, kept moving on as if nothing was happening. When Long Yun heard the words from his cousin both, he knew that the time was soon to come. So Long gave them instructions to get the MPA prepared, and then sat down to write a letter to alert the NRA remnants to mobilize. For war was soon to come. Here now, cousin, I need you to do something for me. Well, I'm off to Baoshan for a well-deserved rest. Can you take care of the government for me? Long had done this before. He knew the drill quite well. Of course, cousin. More than willing to help. You make sure to enjoy your journey. Surely he deserved a brief vacation after all his devoted work for Xinan and for China. Long Yun, on the other hand, turned away to put his plans into motion. Or he who has lost the mandate. Lu Han slammed open the door to the governor's office, only to find himself staring into the cold pitch black barrels of the rifle. Yun, please, what do you think you're... His grumbles, of course, went unheeded as he was escorted out of his former office. It was then that the king of the southwest finally lifted his head and cast his gaze upon the homeland reclaimed, soon to be unshackled from subjugation and treachery forevermore. By the time Gao had processed the news long enough to put his head in his hands, Long Yun had solidified control over the whole of Xinan, and even Sichuan is under the threat of the MPA now. And with that, we have done it. After 30 years of Japanese rule, we as the Xinan clique has broken free from Japanese influence and established the National Protection Army. And now, as our first step of liberating the whole of China, we get a set of decisions called the Battle of Sichuan, where we can aim to get control over this Chinese province before our inevitable expedition to take back the whole of China. And here, Sichuan sides with Long Yun. A great victory. And finally now, following our victory in Sichuan, it seems that we have now received an ultimatum from Gao's Republic of China. Yeah, no. It seems like whether we want it or not, our war against the Republic of China is coming. And there we have it. The second expedition begins. Rise from your shackles, brave sons of China. And finally, it begins. Our insurrection against China has begun, and our war to free China begins now. Let's do this. And now, after the initial stages of the battle, we have managed to encircle 13 ROC divisions, so now we have to deal with a set of decisions called the second expedition. Now, there are a lot of things we can do with this UI, but the most important part for us right now is the bar of war momentum. Depending on our war momentum, we can start inviting other members to form a united front to fight against the Japanese. So right now, our goal is to clean out the remaining pockets and continue to advance into the Chinese mainland. And now with the fall of Yunnan, our war momentum has now reached 66, which means that one by one we can start inviting the Chinese warlords to join our National Liberation Front. And well, let's start with the Xikang clique, shall we? And after months of brutal fighting, we have successfully driven out the puppet Chinese forces away from southern China. We have taken most, if not all, Chinese warlord states on our side, and all that's left for us to take is the Chinese capital of Nanjing. So now, with the simple seizing of the Chinese capital, the MPA has successfully defeated the fake ROC in its crusade against Japanese imperialism. My people, decades ago, the Japanese imperialist bastards came and raped this great city. But any case, it matters not, for they are no more. We of the MPA of the ROC have arrived, and we will protect the city. It will never fall again. This, I swear. And mere days after the seizing of Nanjing, we have the declaration. Nanjing had been reclaimed, and it was time for the MPA to free the rest of China. People of the Chinese nation and of the world, glory to free China, long live freedom, death to Japanese imperialism. And so begins the Great Asian War, for us to take back what was lost from us in the Second Sino-Japanese War and defeat the Japanese imperialists once and for all. The Chinese have the spirit to fight the enemy to the last drop of our blood, the determination to recover our lost territory by our own efforts, and the abilities to stand on our own feet. 2 suns, 1 sky. And right now, after a few months of fighting, we have defeated the Seihoku Homengun, and we're also closing in on Beijing. Onwards. And after even more months of bloody fighting, Beijing, the last cancerous tumor of the collaborator blight, has been liberated by the MPA. We have fought long and hard and will soon accomplish what our predecessor Sowa failed, the true restoration of the northern lands. And with the fall of Beijing also comes the official capitulation of the remaining Republic of China. Just Mengjiang, Empire of Manchuria, and Guangdong left now, boys. Oh, and that's some very big encirclements. Let's hope we carry on the momentum. Uh, 19 Japanese divisions in the sea. That can't be good. And now we have finally defeated Mengjiang. But at the same time, our war momentum is also rapidly going down. If this hits 0, we're in big trouble. So we're going to have to speed up. 3 months after the big invasion of Japan of southern China, we have managed to defeat Guangdong and only Manchuria remains. We can do this. And finally, the Golden Cup shattered, and the MPA has defeated Manchuria in the Great Asian War. I believe that's all we have to do, and there we have it. It is dawn, and the bulges finally fall silent. The Empire of Japan, in the final act of desperation, has offered surrender. Today, the tyrant finally cowers before the lands and peoples it has trampled on for decades too long. We have done enough. Today, the curtain has fallen upon the Great Asian War. With significant fanfare and more significant attendance of representatives from both sides, the Wei Highway Accords has been signed into effect. We have done the miracle. The Northern Expedition succeeds, and China is, for the first time since the Opium War, liberated from imperialism. Deng had never expected it would happen. He was fully expecting that he and everyone else in the MPA would die when the Japanese crushed them. Yet that was not what happened. The white sun on a blue sky flies over China. The century of humiliation is over. We are free. And right after our victory in the Great Asian War, we get the last days of the warlord. Are you right, my cousin? No, Han, just let an old man catch his breath. I'm sorry, Yun, I wasn't strong enough and I betrayed our people. You did what you thought was best for Xinan on my behalf. That's why I'll live on as long as I must, to drop all charges against you. Long Yun lay on what was soon to become his deathbed. His tuberculosis had developed to a terminal inoperable stage. The next morning, the guards found Han dead in his bed. Yun held the paper Han had given him in his hands. On it was written, "The winds of spring once again breathe on Shanghai gates." And following the news on Long Yun's death, the Republic has officially begun its first legislative assembly. Why don't we elect Sun Fo? Surely the son of Dr. Sun Yat-sen has far more wisdom and expertise than we do. The speech rejuvenated the assembly. All the assembly could do was hope that he would accept the offer. And the son of the Republic. Ever since my self-imposed exile to California, it's been about 20 years since I last stepped foot on China. You all know me as the son of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. Yet today, we are the same. We are all dreamers who dream of a free, just and strong China. I would like to end my speech with a final telegram sent before the fall of Chongqing. It was short, but in its shortness, there lies strength. Long live the people, long live the Republic, long live China. And here we have a free China. For all the Chinese people worldwide united in jubilation today, China, for the first time ever since the First Opium War, is now unquestionably free. And this freedom we shall cherish for all eternity. Citizens, honorable members of the Assembly, my fellow compatriots, I vow with my soul and conscience to henceforth operate within the confines of the Republic's Constitution and forge a path ahead for all of us to walk together. Remind me, if you will, why did I choose here as the site of our briefing today? Madame Song has always remained sympathetic to the workers and peasants' Red Army. Indeed. Today, Kuomintang soldiers and Red Army fighters might still greet each other on the streets, but peace is a fragile thing. The Communist Party stands at a disadvantage in influence, and it is time we remedy that. We have a new guest to welcome in town. A new guest? And who might that be? Yi paused, turned around, and a smile was already hanging on his lips. You'll see. And with that, ends our adventure with the National Protection Army and the Republic of China. Yeah, that was quite fun. The new Long Yun is definitely much more realistic than whatever the previous Long Yun path was. I always appreciate it when the devs go back and rework some of the more overly outlandish paths in the mod that may be a little too unrealistic. So yeah, that was the Republic of China. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am working on a mega campaign video, trust me, and I'll try to get it out before Christmas. But yeah, subscribe for more videos, like the video if you enjoyed it, and well, hopefully I'll see you all before Christmas. Goodbye.